Thank you very much, Ahmed, for joining us again to talk about different aspects of the Rhodes Scholarship. For people that don't, maybe they've not met you before, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much, Fam Yusuf. My name is Ahmed. I am a pharmacist by academic background, studied pharmacy at University of Lagos. I've worked mostly in technology, venture, and entrepreneurship space. Like you mentioned, I'm a 2025 Rhodes Scholar elect, and I'm going to be resuming for my master's at Oxford later this year. I'm deeply passionate about healthcare access, and what I hope to spend most of my life on is healthcare access and poverty eradication is to build ventures and build solutions that can help us reduce poverty to the barest minimum in rural communities and also increase access to healthcare within rural communities. I think technology is going to play a huge role in this. So for my MS, I'm studying an MSc in Applied Digital Health, University of Oxford, and I'll be doing a PhD afterwards. It's a pleasure to be on the call today to talk about the Rhodes experience. And I really hope each and every one of you is able to gain one or two things that can help them in the application process from this video. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. If you also want to watch the previous video, I'm going to show it somewhere for you to see some of the tips and insight that I shared earlier regarding Rhodes Scholarship. But now we're going to be focusing on the different aspects of the application. So to start with, I think the most important part, I don't know whether it's the most important part, we are going to video that will tell us that, is to talk about the personal statement. Can you tell us briefly about the personal statement? What do you think they are looking out for? What do you think stand you out in your personal statement?
So the Rhodes personal statement is a three-part statement. They have their own prompt or questions. Those prompts are really questions that they want the personal statement to answer. And at the core of it, I think what they're looking out for is really to understand you, to understand your story, your past, your present, and your future. It's like it's a connecting the dots essay, really. And they're just trying to understand who you are. Who you are in the context of, are you the kind of person that is going to solve a problem in the world? Because they used to say Rhodes Scholars are people that fight the world's fight. They're people that don't just think about themselves alone, but also trying to solve problems that is affecting us as a generation, as a civilization together. And that's what they're looking out for in your personal statement. Like, are you the kind of person that exhibits these four criterias that Cecil Rhodes himself puts down to say Rhodes Scholar must exhibit this? And academic excellence is one of that. Leadership excellence is another. Very good character of honesty, integrity, being concerned about others, caring for people that can't fight for themselves and trying to fight for them is one of that. And just being a truthful person is also, like, just having a very strong moral compass is one of that. So they're looking for all of these four criteria in your personal statement. But most importantly, they're looking at the things you've done in this regard, right? So it would be a lot more easier if, again, with any personal statement, and also like we wrote personal statement, showing is always better than telling. And what do I mean is, it's a different thing if you tell someone that I'm solving a problem of ABCD. That's you're telling them. If you say, I run ABC organization that do program ABCD to solve problem DEF, that is showing. One sounds more real and less fictional than the other, right? And you're only going to be able to write something like that if you've been doing the work. So what do you have to do to really help you put together a very strong personal statement? Whatever it is you say you're passionate about, whatever it is you say you want to spend the rest of your life on, you need to show the track record today that you've been doing something in that regard. It might not be the exact version, it might not be the full version, but you must show us today that you've been doing some level of work in that particular line. And the way I think about it is, because I also worked in venture, so I understand fundraising when you're trying to raise money for a business. One of the things investors look out for is something called traction in a business. And traction is, oh, you started this business, we've generated so revenue, we are serving so number of customers. These are the things we've learned so far. These are the mistakes we've made. These are the successes we've made. That gives an investor more confidence in you just talking about an idea and saying, bring my money. And when you think about scholarships, it's an investment. So on an average, Rhodes sponsors you for 3 to 4 years at Oxford. The person they are going to spend the least amount of money on, you spend nothing less than £200,000 on the person. So it's a lot of money, and it's a limited money. So they're looking at it that who are the people that we can put this money on that will give us the highest return on investment. Honest truth is they don't know, but they are going to use certain pointers to make that decision. And one of that is traction. So if you say you're passionate about something today, one of the things that is going to really help you when you're writing your personal statement is to be able to show enough evidence of the work you've been doing in that regard. The thing is, you don't need to be successful yet. In fact, they are not expecting you to be successful yet. Because if you are successful, you probably not be looking for the Rhodes Scholarship. But they want to see that you started that journey within the little resources that you have, right? You started that journey, you've been doing some work in that regard, and you've been learning a couple of lessons in that regard. And when they give you the Rhodes Scholarship, it helps you to amplify whatever it is that you're doing in that particular moment in time.
So they should not read your personal statement and start asking questions. Who is this guy? You need to make it clear to who you are, your interests, and what you've done. So it's not just about flowery words. It's about what you've done and how you're able to tailor what you've done and how it aligns with Rhodes' vision as well. Wow, that's interesting. So what do you think is likely to be common pitfalls when it comes to personal statement for Rhodes Scholarship in general? What do you notice that probably if I didn't do this, there might be some issue?
Yeah, so I think the first one is trying to copy other people's story. We do this a lot. It's not even just in story, even with goals. A lot of us, we pick other people's goals and we try to work on those goals. Just because someone has done it, we also want to do it. So if you're not writing your own story in your personal statement, it's going to be obvious. Because the way they review the application, from my understanding, is they're reviewing it side by side other people's essay. So when they place it side by side other people's essay, the ones that they didn't put like a lot of thought and a lot of attention to, you just clearly jump up.
You cannot win a Rhodes Scholarship by luck.
I mean, there will be some level of luck in it, right? Because the odds are very low. Me too. And when I looked at all of us that won, that was something that was evident, right? Not saying we're the best candidate, though. Not like saying we are like the best candidate. It was evident that these guys are not just all talks. They've been doing some work in this regard, and they understand it. And really, that's what the final interview actually looks for. Because again, with essays, it's literally is relatively possible to actually still be able to confuse and convince people with essays. Like the way you can stitch words together, that the person will begin to believe in you, even though you are cooking up a story. But when you sit down in front of the selectors and they are probing deeply, they can clearly just see people that have been doing some work and the problem that say they want to solve, and people that haven't been doing it. So again, first one is you have to ensure that you're not just cooking up stories. Yes, you're writing stories that are unique to you, that are unique to your experience. I think that's the first one. The second one is, yes, we are in the era of AI, but AI doesn't know your story. So I feel like a lot of people would use AI to write, and it will be as generic as it can come. Like it will be we begin to see those beacon of hope, something like you just know, that this person is like, I can't read this and understand who this person is. And that's what they are looking for. Like, who are you? That's the question they are asking. So again, you can use AI to review. I used it a lot. Like my essay, a lot of times I'll write it, I'll give it to ChatGPT and say, these are the things that they are looking out for. Based on these things they are looking out for and based on what I've written, what do you think is lacking here? Because even them in the application, they encourage you that you can use AI to review, but you don't use it to write, right? You can use it to review, to make your application better, because there's also word limits. They say you can even use it to summarize so that you're within the word limit, but don't just use it to write, because AI can only think to the extent of the information you give it, right? And it doesn't know your story.
Yeah.
So that's the second one. I think the third one is trying to write your personal statement. It takes time. I've come to realize that any very solid, good personal statement actually takes a while, right? It takes you writing, rewriting, because rewriting is actually the essence of writing. It's in the editing and the rewriting that you make it better. Your first draft is going to probably suck.
You said you have about 15, right?
I wrote 15 versions, and those 15 versions are even the ones that, because there are some versions that I'll write in the morning, in the afternoon. I'll not say that was a second version, it's probably still that same version, right? But I wrote 15 versions before I got to the point where when I shared it with people, they're like, okay, yes, this is communicating very clear, coherent manner who Ahmed is and what he's trying to do in the world, right? And the story sort of gels, it connects. It's not disjointed. So if you don't spend that time, you tell stories that are disjointed. Because again, like, it's very unusual, unless for like people like Fam Yusuf that already know that they are epidemiologists and have been doing everything in epidemiology. For a lot of us, we would be finding out about ourselves in the process. So we'll most likely have done some things that are not even in tune what our long-term goal is. Right? Connecting the dots means finding out the most important element that tells a coherent story and taking out every other thing that doesn't gel with that, right? Or even taking stories that to the mere eyes doesn't gel, but being able to connect it based on the fact that you've interrogated it enough to see that there's a common thread here, right? That is actually tying all of these things together and being able to connect it together. I think that's also one. But lastly is also just the basic ones, typo, grammatical errors, all of those basic things. Like, you don't want to have that in your essay. Like, you don't want to have any of those. If you take care of those things, you probably have a very good essay at the end of the day. So an essay that is, I call it the 3 C's: coherent, is clear, and is concise, because it's just 1,000 words. If I'm not wrong, 1,000 words. So it has to be clear, it has to be coherent, and it has to be concise, straight to the point, and it tells a good story.
At what point are you going to apply to Oxford?
So you apply to Oxford so depending on your course, most course application opens in October. So it closes for a lot of courses, it closes in early December. So you would apply to Oxford after you've won the Rhodes Scholarship, right? Because when you're also applying, there's like a different portal for Rhodes Scholars on Oxford. So that if you use that portal, you don't have to pay what are they called, application fee. Not that there's any special. I've also come to realize not like there's any special benefit to using that portal, because the Rhodes Scholar get rejected all the time. Like, they apply for courses at Oxford, also tells you how competitive Oxford is, and get rejected. For example, I applied for 2 MSCs, I got rejected in one and only got accepted in the other, right? So rejections is still part of the process. Right? They are still screening to say, are you the best? Like, is this particular course, is it a good fit for you based on what you want to do and your experience that you've looked at, right? And they're looking at the ones that matches the most for you. So you apply after, so you probably will have won. At our own, the finalists were announced on November 11th, I think. So from November 11th, you have started preparing your Oxford application even before then, because in the Rhodes application too, there's a place you write your academic statement, like just a sample of the course you're trying to study and why you're trying to study it in like 300 words. Just a summary of why you're trying to study that course, even in the Rhodes application process. So to an extent, you already have like a sample of your personal statement for applying to Oxford. And I can use some of your Rhodes recommendation for Oxford. So you don't need to be looking for new recommendations for Oxford when you get accepted or when you get the Rhodes Scholarship.
Thank you. That's helpful. So there's this common misconception. Do you need to finish with the first class, or you need to be the best graduating student for you to apply for Rhodes Scholarship?
So Rhodes requirement is have a first class, right?
Okay.
But I've also realized that it's because it's a highly competitive scholarship. Because it's highly competitive, some things also tips the scale towards you, right? But the basic requirement is having a first class. If you can be the best graduating student, it's a good one. It tips the scale highly in your favor to a large extent. Because I know amongst the three of us that won, I had the lowest CGPA. It was the first class, but it was the lowest. But when they did the ranking for first, second, third, I was like the first out of the three of us, right? And that was because I knew what like my own competitive edge was. Yes, I was good academically, but I've also had very solid professional experience that most people have not had, right? And that was what I leveraged on a lot. That was what I said, this is my competitive advantage, even for this problem I'm trying to solve, in my personal statement and even in the final interview. So I was able to demonstrate that, and that tips the scale in my favor. The previous year before us, I think two of them, one was also a BGS from Covenant. The other also like maybe I think three of them were actually BGS, either for the uni or for the department. And when I also look at the finalists in our own cohort, like more than half of them were either BGS of their department or of the university. So that helps to tip the scale in your favor, but the requirement is really first class. Just have a first class. You can think of other things that make you highly competitive, and if you're able to demonstrate that, you get through.
Thank you for that. So now let's talk about the CV. Is there any aspect of the application that has to do with you submitting a CV?
Yes, yes.
What
Yes,
are the specific requirements?
So you submit a CV, and there isn't like I don't think there's like a specific requirement to the CV. It just needs to show like your experience so far. The honest truth is, for most of the people that will be applying, they probably won't have like very long number of years of professional experience. So most of the things that will be there will probably be leadership, volunteering experience, and things like that. And maybe a bit of professional, maybe internships and all of that. What you want to ensure is a very good CV that also tells a story. So think of each aspect of the application as telling one story or the other. The personal statement, I used it to tell my story, right? I didn't, because it was 1,000 words. So I didn't use the personal statement to now be talking about all the things I've done professionally, right? It was to tell my story. The CV, because I've had relatively good professional experience compared to people that also just finished uni in 2023 that are of my age. The CV was where I flexed that to show all my professional experience, like, and things I've done, right? So I could remember even in the final interview, I got a lot of questions on my CV. Oh, you said you've done this? Because they were really interrogating that. Did you lie? Did you actually do this thing? Tell us how you did this, right? Because it was like an anomaly to an extent, right? So my CV was where I flexed the muscle of that. The academic statement is where I talked about what I want to do academically. The transcript, because you're also going to submit a transcript, is going to show your first class, right, and your grade and how you did academically. So think of each of the different elements of the application and the story you want them to tell, right? And use them to tell a story, because they are very important. I think one pitfall is people also trying to cram everything in their personal statement. You just can't, because it's just 1,000 words. And they've given you the opportunity of submitting other things where you can talk about other things in those different sections. So your resume, just the normal resume, maybe an objective after like your name, a summary, and then you start with like your academic background, your academic experience, things you've done in school, the grade you finished with and all of that. Then maybe professional if you have any of that. Things you do, bullet points, 2, 3 bullet points each. Then you move to your leadership and volunteering. Pay a lot of attention to that because they're actually looking at that and talked about like all the leadership and volunteering experiences you've had and how that feeds into like a wider story and awards you've won because they're looking for high flyers. So if you've won some very good awards, that's where you should be talking about it, right? If you've been in things that have been very competitive, that's where you should talk about it. Because you never know what is going to interest if you get to the finals, your interview at the end of the day. So your CV basically like any other CV, but more tailored towards using it to answer a specific question in your application on a grand scheme of things.
Thank you very much. That was helpful. So another thing I want you to really touch on is, I know for reference letter, we've talked about reference letter a lot in the other video. So if not watch the other video, please try to watch the video. We talk about reference letter a lot. But for the reference letter now, I want you to just comment on, are they looking for just professors? Are they looking for just anyone that can talk about you in an appropriate way? Some reference letter, they're just there. Even if you get it from professor, it might not really carry weight. So what are they looking out for in your reference letter? Is it the name of the person? Is it the position of the person? What are the qualities of the recommenders that they are looking out for?
So I don't think it's more about I don't think they're looking at the qualification of the recommenders. What is important? So I think there are 5 recommendation letter, minimum of 4, if I'm not wrong now. 3 of them needs to be academic. And the criteria there is there are people that have taught you. So they must have taught you maybe 1 or 2 courses in the uni, right? Most of the people that wrote the recommendation letter for me taught me in the postgraduate program I was doing then. I was doing a postgraduate diploma at the Nigerian University of Technology and Management, right? So they've just known me for like a year or thereabouts. So, I mean, they were very accomplished people, but the most important thing is they must have, right? They must have taught you, and then they must be able to talk about you intelligently, right? So there's a guide, like I said, of how they should write the recommendation letter. So I think the first paragraph is they would introduce themselves and talk about the context with which they met you. So maybe they've known you for 2 years, they've known you for 3 years, where they knew you from, what they taught you, just to give that context to satisfy the first criteria of this person has taught the candidate they are talking about. The next 2 or 3 paragraphs is them just praising you, fanning your flames. Well, I've known this person. And again, like the recommendation letter is also another segment to tell another story, right? If you think about it that way, the first thing I talked about in the previous of just writing enough context for the professors to be able to write good recommendation letter, you'd also utilize that. Because when I gave people different context, I also tweaked some of the context because I wanted each person to talk to different strengths and different weaknesses, such that it's a comprehensive, exhaustive application at the end of the day, right? So the next paragraph, they're fanning your flames, talking about all the things you've done, things you're great at, and why you are a deserving candidate for the Rhodes Scholarship. But most importantly, that you actually embody the value and the attributes that the Rhodes Scholarship
what they stand for, right?
Yes, that the Rhodes Scholarship stands for. Then they also tell them to talk about one thing that, because again, they don't believe that you're a fully formed product, that you don't have weaknesses or areas that you're working on. So they also want them to talk to them about 1 or 2 areas where you need help. And if you're very strategic, you'll have studied what the Rhodes is about and think about ways that you can use that section or your recommenders can use that section to talk about one thing that the Rhodes is very, very particular about, and how you are benefit greatly, how it's going to help a place you are deficient at, and be able to demonstrate that in your reference letter. So again, you've got to give the recommenders enough context so they know what they are recommending you for, right? You probably even send them the guide, and then you give them enough context for them to write very good recommendation letter for you. So that's how I did my own, and I'll think about it if I'm to do it again today.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Now to the interview. I think we are going to have a separate video on that. So please look forward to that video where we are going to talk about the interview process and the things that you need to know about the interview. So I just want us to wrap up this video now. Just tell us, is there any resources, or are there any resources online that you've seen that you think is useful to you when you were applying? Is it on YouTube,
Yes.
a particular channel or something?
Yes. One is your channel. I remember watching like a lot of videos of people that had come on the channel and were talking about their personal statement, as at the time when I was applying as well. So your channel was very helpful. And between then and now, you've done like a lot more videos that are super, super helpful. So I will enjoin everyone to first like watch all the videos that are on this channel, right? I think that's the first one. The second one is the Rhodes website itself. They are like, they've done short videos where they were interviewing scholars to talk about the different sections of the application. And there are a lot of gems that those people mention in those things. If you actually, they're very short videos, like 3 minutes to 2 minutes, talking about each section of the application and what helped. Those ones were talking about what helps them, and how you can also leverage on the same thing to be able to make your own application very competitive. And lastly is also just a lot of people have written about their Rhodes experience. Maybe at some point I probably will find time to write about mine and put it on Medium. That if you just go online to read people's essays on like their experience with Rhodes, you will learn a whole lot, right? Or watch even interviews with previous scholars. Not that, because it's a global scholarship, it's not just in Nigeria, it's the same process globally. It's not just in Nigeria or Africa that people are applying. Indians are applying, Chinese are applying, Australians are applying, right? So you have different information sessions that people have done in different, and it's a scholarship that is over 100 years old. So there are tons and tons of resources out there that you probably might not even be able to maximize or maximize it fully if you try to watch and try to read them. I read a lot, and I realized that when I got to the final interview, that I remember before I did my interview, we were at the lobby, and the nerves were tensed, right? Like everybody was tense, because I mean, like, people are going in and coming out, and we are seeing like their facial reaction. So I was just trying to distract people, and I was talking about the history of the Rhodes Scholarship. And I thought everyone would know it. Like they would know the history, even about Cecil Rhodes. I was just talking to them about it. And it turned out not like everyone knew about the history. Right. So right there and then, one lady told me that this guy will probably win. With this much thing you know about this scholarship, you probably win it. So just having enough context about the scholarship, about the people that have won it before, what helped them, could also go a long way in helping you craft out a very competitive application for the scholarship.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. This is highly insightful. You've shared a whole lot of things that will be useful to future applicants, and I wish you all the best in the future as you enjoy Oxford, and also all the future applicants. I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fam Yusuf. It's a pleasure doing this with you.
Thank you.